So today we'll be making an overbust corset. Now the first thing to do is to draft your basic bodice. You're drafting the front and the back pattern all together on this pattern paper. So what I'm gonna have to do is to impute that line. Now one you have to notice is when you're making an overbust corset, notice that there is no back tightening for the overbust. There is no zipper bulge. You just leave your back pattern like so, and then this is the front pattern. One thing you have to notice is that you have to connect all your darts to the actual hip line, as I have done here. Can you see? Connect your dart line to the actual hip line, no upper hip and all of that. And you can be asking me, why are we doing that? We are doing that because of the tightening that we are going to do on this pattern. Now, another thing to note is that when you're making on the bust, we are going to return all the darts. So we'll call 25% cinching, 50% cinching, 75, and all of that. We are not. Now, the reason why we are not doing the 25% cinching, 50% cinching and all of that is because we are going to do proper cinching on this pattern. So you have to know how much you are taking out or removing from your waist. You can't just assume it. You have to be sure how much you want to remove. That is why we are not doing all those type of tightening. What you're going to do again is to do your on the bust tightening. Is very, very important. Okay? So after doing that, what I'm going to do next is to do my shoulder tightening. I divided my shoulder slope into two and I connected it straight to my bust point. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is to slash through it so that I can be able to tighten my shoulder. Now you slash through your bust point like so. Did you see? And next thing again, I'm going to open up my dart so that I can be able to close bust that. I'm sure you know how to get this. Now when I slash through, it will give me room to close it so that so what I'll do next is to close my bust point like so. Can you see? And then I'm going to come over here and measure my shoulder that is open already like so. So I'm going to measure this point from here to here, and whatever value I have, I'm going to divide it into 4. Now what I have here is 3.35. I'm going to fold it into 2. I like to divide like so. Fold it into 2. Okay, now I'm going to divide this value again into 2. Can you see? So this is divided by 4, and I'll bring this value here and I'll mark it here. I like to auto return it here so that I can make my shoulder complete. So I'm returning it here, and next thing I'll do is to connect it to my bust point. So here is it. I will do this, and next thing I'll do is to connect this to my mid armhole. So next I'm going to open up my bust point and close my shoulder darts. Can you see? Now I will now be able to redraw my shoulder. So at this point we have successfully tightened our shoulder, as you can see. So now the next thing we do is to determine our overbust. So usually you go up from your chest line by 1 inch, although that depends on how revealing you want for your overbust to be. So you can even do 1.5, you can do less, you can do more. It all depends on you and what you're styling. So I'm going to go up from my chest line. Go from your chest line by 1 inch. I would like to rule it. Another thing to do is to determine the type of neckline you are going to style. If you want to do scoop neckline or Queen Anne neckline or any kind of neckline you want to do, you have to consider it. And then coming to your bust point, there is something we call bust breach. So you are going to go up from your bust point by 0.5. So mark 0.5 up and also go down by 0.5. So right now we have 3 points. You can either use any of these points to style your neckline. So with your curve, you're going to place your curve like this. Remember that your overbust styling is already here. So place your curve like so. So I'm choosing 0.5 above my bust point to style this. Now I'm going to go like so. Now after drawing this, another thing to do is to go over to your armhole. I like to use the mid armhole for this styling. Now if we extend this scoop line to go all across to this point, it's going to affect the movement of my armhole when I'm wearing this. So I like to come in from my armhole by 0.75. You can also do 0.5. It depends on how you want to style this. Alright, so I'm coming in by 0.5. Okay, let's leave it at 0.5. Let's say I want this to stop at this point. So you have to put a mark there. And then we are going to redraw our armhole. Now, for you to draw out your armhole, if you are going to make a yoke out of this pattern, you might need to go down by 0.5 from at this point. Okay, so that helps you that helps it to relax well so that it will not be obstructing with your armhole. Some people, when they fit their dresses, they find it difficult to have this free movement at their armhole region. That is because it's actually touching at this chest line. But if you're making it without a yoke, you can leave it at this point. So now I'm going to go down on this point by 0.5, and I'm going to redraw my armhole. Then now I can now properly draw out this, connecting from this point to this point, my scoop neckline. Can you see? So this is the actual one I'm using now. Now next thing we're going to do is to do tightening on our overbust. So for my tightening, I'm going to do 0.25, 0.5. So I'll come over here and I'll go up by 0.5 following the curve from my overbust. I'm going to go up by 0.5 is here, and I'll also follow this curve and also mark 0.5 is here. Now after that, I'm going to connect it to my bust point, this point to my bust point, like I'm also connecting this. So after that, I'm going to do what is called blending and throwing. So instead of making this pattern rough, I like to measure. So I'm placing my measuring tape here to measure this length, and what I have here is 3.35. So I'm going to carry this same measurement and place it on this other that leg until it completes. Wherever it falls, that is where I'm going to mark. So I have it here. So I'll put a mark there, is here, right here. And next thing I'm going to do is to redraw my neckline to meet up. So this is our true neckline I will have here. So even if you want to blend and true, I'm sure you know what that means. It's just for you to fold it in like so and place it to meet up. Now do you see that it's matching up because I've measured it? Then you can now use your curve rule to blend it up. Do you see? This is how it should be. So we have it and it's settled. All right, so once we are done with the overbust, the next thing to do is to move down to the corset length. Now from your waistline, you have to determine your corset length, and the actual corset length that you need is between 4 inches to 5 inches. Don't do more. Or what you have to do is to get your client to sit down and then you measure them to know the length of their corsets, so that when they wear their outfits, they'll be comfortable on it. You're not supposed to extend towards their pelvic region. So I'm going to measure 4 inches. Now from my waistline, I'll measure 4 inches. This is my 4 inches and this is my 4 inches. I'll rule a line. I'll also like to do the same thing at the back. So this is my 4 inches. So next we'll move on to our hemline. Our hemline is now our corset length. So on this corset line, I'm going to go in by 1.25. Now if you have a big belly, you can do 1.5. You know, we're trying to redirect our dart legs so that you can have that curvy look, right? So what I'm going to do is to connect my dart leg, the first dart leg, I'm going to connect it to this 1.25. So after marking it like so, I would like to measure my underbust tightening, measure everything you have here. Now what I have here is 2.85. I would like to bring it down here and mark it here. Now once I mark it, I will now redirect the second dart leg to meet up with that mark. Now we can go ahead and clean up this other lines if it's going to confuse you. After tilting our darts like so, we are going to go over straight to the cinch part, cinching our waist. Now for you to do that, you have to get your actual waist. Now the actual waist I'm working with is 33. You have to divide your actual waist by 4. Next thing you do is for you to get your cinch waist. Now for my cinch waist, I usually remove 2 inches for my actual waist. Please don't do too much. Corset does not make your tummy flat. Have that in mind, and so that you don't go removing too much from your waistline. Now 33 minus 2 will give me 31. I'm going to divide 31 divided by 4. Divided by 4 will give us 7.75. Now what it means is that on the waistline we are supposed to have 7.75. Right, now remember that when you do this, we have already cinched this waist already, because this our underbust has taken something out of our waist. So what we have to do is to measure. Now this is how you measure. You measure from your center point to the first dart leg, and whatever thing you have there, you carry it straight to the second dart leg and is here. And from here we'll measure all through. Now what we'll have here is 7 inches, but what we are looking for is what? 7.75. If you get to this point and your own is more than, please complete it. So what I'm going to do is now to measure 0.75 from my waistline here, 0.75, and I'll mark it. Why am I doing this? I want to complete my cinched waist, because this underbust that we created here this one that was tilted like this have taken so much from my waist, and I have to complete it. So this is where the 0.75 mark is, and I'm going to connect it to my underbust, because if I take it all the way, it's going to affect my underbust, it's going to add to it. So what I'll do, I'll connect it, and afterwards I'll connect it to my corset line. So do you see? So this now becomes my new side line. Now what I'll do next is to divide this part into two. I would like to close my darts and do this. So closing my darts like this. Now most times when we close our darts, you find out that like we have, you know, this excess by the side here. Okay, so what you have to do is to connect it. I would like to divide this part. I'll still tilt it like so. Place your tape like so, and then we'll create another panel. So at this point, we will now go over to the hemline. Now for our hemline, we are going to measure what we have here and divide it into two. Measure everything we have here, divide it into two, and I'm going to mark one at the front and one at the back. I'll come over here and mark it. You see. Now for our hem styling, I would like to come up from here by 0.25, and I'll blend it to the waistline. Can you see? And we are doing the same thing here. So marking 0.25 on this other side, I'm going to connect it like so. Now after doing that, I'm going to return this back to the side, and that is 0.5. Now for us to have a seamless fit at the front, I would like to come out on the waistline by 0.25. Now we're trying to do all necessary tightening that is important on this panel. Now coming out by 0.25, I'll place my curve. Watch me carefully how I do. I place my curve here. Now I'm going to connect this point, this 0.25, and the first dart leg. So you have to position your curve rule in such a way that you get these 3 points correctly. Then I'll go ahead and connect. Do you see? I'll go over to my hemline. Now if you also want to create another dart on this panel that we created, you can go ahead and do that, but make sure that you are returning it, because now our waist is, but in a situation whereby your weight, you have excess, all you have to do is to use the excess you have and plot a dart here. You can take it out from here, but now my waist is complete. I don't need to do all that. All I have to do is to go over to the hemline. I've measured this other that I created here, and I return it by the side. Now we are making a conical overbust corset. What I have to do is to extend the hemline like this, and I'm going to mark 1.25 on the hemline like so. So this is my 1.25 mark. Do you see? Then I'm going to use my curve and connect it to the waistline. So we're going to position it like this. Make sure that it's not straight, and then we connect. Do you see it? Now coming over to the hem, I would like to go up by 1 inch. Now I'm going to also mark another 1 inch here, because I'm trying to get a straight line before I'll finally curve out. So I'm going to just mark a faint line here like this, and I'm going to measure what I have here. Everything I have here now is 3.25, and I'm bringing it on this line to make sure that I have my complete 3.25. I'm confirming it on this other line. This is it here, and then connect this. See, and then I'm going to connect it. Shape it anyhow you want. Okay, so and that will be all for the front. Next thing we'll do is to label. So this is my center front, this is my mid front, this is my side front. I'll go over to the back. Coming to the back, remember we came down by 0.5 by the side. I would like to do the same thing here. So I'm coming down by 0.5, and on this part, the center back, I'm going to go down by 2 inches. So it's up to you how you want to style your back. I'm going to connect it like so. So we'll now determine how open you want your back. I would like to come in by 2 inches again, and on the waistline I'll go in by 1 inch, and on the hemline I'll also mark 1 inch. Now this is not standard, so you have to, you know, determine what you are styling and how you want to style it. So now I'm going to connect it like so, and I'd like to connect this to the 2 inches. You see, now after doing this, I would like to mark my lacing bar, and the standard is 1.5. So I'll come here, I'll mark 1.5 here. I'll come to the waistline, I'll mark 1.5, And also on my corset length, which is the hem, I'll mark 1.5. After doing this, this is the seam bar, and I would like to now cinch the back. Now remember that the waist that we are working with 7.75. Now I'm going to measure everything excluding the darts and make sure that what we have is 7.75. Now remember that this is also part of your back, so I'm going to place my tape from the center back to the first dart leg. I have 3.25. I'll carry it to this other dart leg and I'll measure everything I have, and I'm going to mark my 7.75, and I have it here, 7.75. I have it here, so I'd like to redirect this side line. And next I'll clean up this. Now what I'll do next is to divide everything I have from this to this part into 3, because we're going to share this dart into 4. Now I would like to measure everything and I'll divide it. Now first of all, I would like to measure my dart and keep it aside. What I have is 1.25 or 1.25. I will note it and I'll clean some of this line so that it will not confuse me. So dividing what I have here into 3, I would like to rule it. So now I'm going to divide the dart we have at the back, 1.25 divided by 4. So this is my 1.25. I would like to divide it into 2 first, and then I'll divide it into 2 again. So I'm going to mark it out here. Yet again, we have an existing dart at the hemline. I would like to measure it and divide it also into 4, because we're going to use it to tighten our hemline. What we have here is 0.75. I would like to divide it into 4. So 4. So I'd like to share it. And after sharing it, okay, so now we have it. Now we'll go over to the hemline. So remember, in front we divided the underbust dart into 2, and we are going to mark half of that measurement at the front. Now I'm going to carry it and mark it here, you see, and then next I'm going to mark 1.25 for the conical. So I'm going to add 1.25 here, and next I'm going to connect it. Now remember we came up by 1 inch, and I'm going to measure everything I have here and bring it up to that point. Place your curve rule and then style it to your desired choice. And then I'd like to come up by 0.5 at the back, because your corset length at the back is not supposed to be too long, by 0.5. And then I will connect like so. The next thing I'll do is to label. Of course, this is the side back, this is the mid back, this is the center back. This brings us to the end of this pattern. What I'll do next is to cut. So we have 3 pieces in the front and we have 3 for the back. So I'm going to cut this out, cut this, and cut this together with the lacing back.